Oh, would you look at that? It's airy. Oh no. It's airy. What's up, guys? I'm here, and we want to do a breakdown and review for chapter 415 of My Hero Academia, which is known as Rejection. And admittedly, I'm not gonna lie, in a way, it makes sense in the context of the chapter, but the chapter's kind of misleading, at least in terms of its title, but at the same time, I understand you don't want to spoil the title or spoil the chapter with the title. That's why Hori sometimes puts the chapter title at the end of the chapter rather than the start. Or rejection is kind of a funny way to put it. But regardless of all that, we have a decent little chunk to talk about. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me. Ready. 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact. Have I ever told you that Kohei Horikoshi is a monster, a beast, and a demon with the pen? Look at this, man. Look at that. Like, this low-key feels like flexing. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of series have those moments where, like, a mangaka will go backwards and, like, hey, look at how far we've come by showing, like, earlier events and stuff like that, and new perspectives and new lights. But this low-key feels like Hori flexing. Like, I've said it many times before. Chapter 1 Hori is a monster. Like a beast and a demon. When it comes to just sheer artistic skill, he's always been different. Don't let anybody convince you other. Well, maybe not always. I don't think I've read his earliest manga, but like Ogata Makizu, which predates My Hero Academia by like, I think 2 or 3 years. It still looks fantastic to this day. Go read Ogata Makizu. I say it wrong all the time. I forget how it's actually meant to be pronounced. But like a bunch of characters' designs have been transferred over from Ogata Maki to My Hero Academia. When you think of Gang Orca, that's Sakamoto. I think it's Sakamoto or Sakamoto from Ogata Makizu. I haven't reread that in a while. You know, the Snake Lady Uwami, I think that's also from Ogata Makizu. There are a bunch of different animal character designs that get carried over from that. Go read it. It's fantastic. The art's still great. It predates My Hero Academia. So when I tell you that current Hori slams start of My Hero Academia or early MHA Hori on his neck in terms of artistic ability, that just goes to show you that the man's different. I think My Hero Academia has been around for 8, maybe 9 years? I forget when My Hero Academia first started coming out. Jeez, it's been a minute. But essentially, this man's monstrous. And I'm not even saying this by the later parts where I'm going to glaze Hori. I'm glazing from round start. Look at this Mineta, bro. Look at this Mineta. From the details in the shading of the glove to the multiple different shadings on the arm, all the way down to the different layers of the scarf, even the different details in the tears from the different lines of the connection between Midoriya and Shigaraki in the QUIRK world, overlapping in certain areas, but not overlapping to the point where they cause issues. How do you even do that? Like, once again, I've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. Hori does have assistants. It don't matter though. This is crazy. Whether it be Hori or the Hori team, their ability to use black and white so well, it is next level. Like I'm just gonna say, everybody, it is next level. I've yet to see someone be as different as Kohei Horikoshi is with that gosh darn pen in terms of weekly mangaka. Don't get me wrong, Hori, he's top tier. He's next level. He's peak. He ain't Murata though. But in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think peak Record of Ragnarok does still slam peak Hori on his neck. I'm just saying. However, what is the difference between Murata and the 2 Record of Ragnarok mangaka and Kohei Horikoshi? He does it weekly. They do it, I think, in the shortest bi-weekly for Murata and monthly for the Record of Ragnarok mangaka. This man's a demon with it. And it's crazy because he's a demon compared to his Chapter 1 self, which is a demon. Well, honestly, Chapter 1 Hori still is very, very good, especially in comparison to Ogata Makizu Hori. So, like, seeing how much this man has progressed is amazing. And, of course, I'm saying this mostly as a pencil guy, but, like, I think even if you don't necessarily care too much about artistic quality when it comes to reading manga, I think even anyone can just appreciate how much the man has grown as a creative talent, when he was already an amazing creative talent when it comes to his artistic quality. And notably, what I love about Hori is that there's not necessarily an over-designed, well, maybe I'll talk about it when it comes to Shigi's not necessarily new design, but his design philosophy later on in this chapter, and even maybe a little bit of Midoriya's, but I still think it worked. Why does he have the cape? Didn't he destroy the... Whatever. But with that being the case, even just the simplicity in Asui's design is still perfectly complemented by the background, blending in with the foreground, and causing this shattering effect across them. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful. Once again, fantastic. And, well, I will admit, this does look gas. It only gets more gas later on. It's like, I bet y'all thought I was about to say something negative. No, it just gets more gas later on, but we'll get to that. However, like I said, we are reviewing chapter 415, Rejection. And naturally, Yoichi begins to realize, wait a minute, their memories, they're blending together. Is this the accelerated response to the One for All resonating with my brother's quirk factor? How is it I can see them now? And by transferring the second, we've reached a critical point? So this is interesting. Notably, I agree. Quirks are magic, but I like to make sense of some sort of magic. So what if I had to take a guess why their memories are blending together? It probably has to do with an overlapping of software and hardware. Right now, One for All and All for One are sort of, but they're generally butting heads. They're trying to like figure out how they fit back into each other, and honestly figure out how these two things mix, especially when the sentience of One for All is what's being transferred over mainly, not the quirk itself. The power itself is all staying with Midoriya. So the software built into the hardware of One for All and by proxy Midoriya is trying to link up with and mess with the software of Shigaraki and All for One. But the hardware in both Shigaraki and Midoriya, which is built upon their memories, what's stored in their gigabyte storage bases, is now blending because of all the damage that One for All is causing All for One, leading to this bleeding of memories. And it's very specifically only Shigaraki and Midoriya's memories because they are the two current... How do I put this? They're the two computers that the flash drives are plugged into right now. And now those computers are linking through the flash drives, causing any information to be stored on both the flash drives and by proxy the computers to mix and meld, leading to this kind of scenario, which is interesting enough. Once again, I'm hoping... Someone pointed this out. I forget what the guy's name is, though. It wasn't even on this platform. It was over on the dancing platform, where someone pointed out that they hope this section would be used to, like, have Midoriya reflect upon his memories, but unfortunately, if I had to take a guess, they're mainly being used as an indicator for, well, I'll get to it when it comes to that idea sooner rather than later. But we will be getting to it later, as Yoichi realizes, my brother wished for a strong heart, so he could steal One for All. But no matter how powerful he got, the one true heart was here all along. The ultimate villain, whose spirit is solidified hatred and malice. We need to stop his evil acts. That's what we've done from the start. We've passed on from generation to generation for the sake of this moment. So, Yoichi realizes, essentially, even though this is, in a way, the destruction of One for All, in the sense that all the different quirks, the quirk factors, and the vestiges that came along with the quirk factors, are essentially being a hard sacrifice in order to stop All for One, that is their purpose, right? Like, that's the whole reason One for All existed, as a counterbalancer to All for One. And of course, with the original person, All for One being... Well, I guess that's not even the case. He's not really... He's more so... And then he just disappeared. Now, all that's left is destroying the quirk. And of course... Not necessarily the quirk itself, because that'd probably be too much to destroy considering how many different people are held inside of it, but at least breaking the holder of the quirk to the point where hopefully the cycle of violence, the cycle of hatred, if you will, between One for All and All for One will end here, as has long since been their desire. Every single wielder of One for All has in their own way tried to do what they're doing today. Breaking All for One, making sure it can no longer harm people again. If that comes at the sacrifice of their pseudo-lives, they're more than happy to do it. And I do like how this is what their goal is, and how they all dive forward with gritted teeth and determination. Though, admittedly, Danjiboro, if you don't get you behind that, you were told to stay behind, gosh darn it. You don't move back to the back of the line, gosh darn it. Nana, what are you doing in the back? Though, admittedly, I will admit, it still works that Nana's in the back. It makes sense that Yoichi's in the back, right? Because, you know, he's the first, meaning he's, like, the oldest quirk relative to everyone here, so thusly it would make sense that he's towards the back. But Nana being in the back likely still symbolizes her regrets. Because in a way, in a super roundabout way too, don't get me wrong, there was always going to be a Shigaraki Tomura. No matter what. Whether Nana had a kid and gave it up or not, All for One was going to find a new vessel. The story would have fundamentally happened in broad strokes. It may not have been Shigaraki Tomura, who knows, it may not have been Izuku Midoriya, but the story of One for All versus All for One was destined to continue in one way, shape, or form. Just it seems like it's destined to end here. But ultimately, Nana knows. That's her flesh and blood right there. Her grandchild. He's the one currently threatening all of creation. He's the one who's promising, and I mean promising vehemently, that he's going to tear this world down to its very foundation. There's everything in it does nothing but remind him of that accursed house. And ultimately, she bears the guilt of that. Of course, it's not her fault. In her mind and in that moment, with the help of Gran Torino, who we still don't know, like, is Gran Torino the father? We never get a clarification on that. Like, and it's never really hinted at either, because we never figure out the dad's quirk. Like, notably, if it was float plus, like he can only float through holes in his feet or something like that, then we could be like, well, but notably, it's never necessarily confirmed, I don't think, if Gran Torino's actually the grandfather as well. Because if not, like, if it's just some random dude, why was Gran Torino given such a huge say in what happens to the baby? Why isn't that just Nana's choice? Because notably, it's Gran Torino who says, we agreed on giving up the baby. So, like, what do you mean by that? But with that being the case, I do like how, even though it's not her fault, even though this isn't even really her, Nana Shimura's been gone for decades at this point, she still feels the guilt. And she still feels the reluctance to attack her grandbaby. Because that's essentially what she's doing, in a way, shape, and or form. Of course, her grandbaby is currently, legally speaking, being held hostage by an approximation of her grandchild. Once again, the whole split between Shigaraki Tomura and Tenko Shimura, while it seemed for the longest time like just a name thing, and it was meant to be symbolic, the narrative itself is treating it as a much, much, much more literal. So, I suppose when I say Shigaraki, I mean the approximation of Tenko Shimura that was manipulated by All for One in order to be Shigaraki? I guess that's the proper way to put it at this point, meaning that ultimately Nana still believes she's attacking some portion of her grandson. So it makes sense why she's the one in the back, the most reluctant to dive forward and strike against him. Because that's still, in a way, her baby. And I do like that. And I also do like how each of the symbols correspond here. Note, N, I forget his name, Danjiburo, Yoichi, Nana, N, I forget his name, Danjiburo, Yoichi. Interesting, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are only 5 of them left, though. That's weird. I wonder what. I'm only noticing that now. I guess that's meant to. One of them is meant to represent All Might, but All Might doesn't have a quirk to pass over, so I don't know. But I guess they're just sending the vestiges in general. But then again, I guess you can't really. No, but All Might would count as the quirk, so I guess you could send All Might. And I guess he's the last one here, right? So he's truly the last one. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I still like Nana at the back though. I'm still gonna stick with my interpretation, even though All Might's technically the most recent, but I'm gonna chalk All Might to being the most bad, because once again, he does feel bad for his master, he's trying to support her, push her forward, and at the same time, he is the most recent one, and he also doesn't have a quirk factor to transfer, meaning he's the least likely to be effective against Shigaraki, outside of, vestige, ghost energy thing slamming against One for All, or slamming from One for All into All for One. And of course, we see Midoriya drive that fist forward. And we see him pull it back as realities begin to blend. Notably, there is a non-linear timeline going on in terms of the regression of these characters. Remember, the memory we saw from Shigaraki, I forget when the spinner memory is from, but I believe the Dabi and Toga memory is specifically from post-Hosu arc, post-Stain arc. And then I think the Midori memory is from the tournament arc, which predates the Hosu arc in its entirety. So we're going backwards in time. We aren't moving forwards. A lot of people were wondering if we were going to see stuff from the first war, but it seems like we may, but at the same time, due to the progression, we are heading backwards in time. And once again, I know y'all gonna get sick and tired of me doing it, but I got to claim my boy Hori. Look at this piece of art. Nah, I'm telling you. Hori, he said he wanted to make a horror manga. I believe it. I believe it. What even is this? I get it's the Nomu, and I love how it's the callback to specifically, in my opinion, admittedly though, that's me like being extremely biased. I really like USJ Nomu. In my opinion, the strongest Nomu, like I get it had shock absorption, but it was also swinging relatively evenly with a late stage All Might. Like it had the physical speed to at least boom, 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 and like hit the mood. Like, it had the physical speed to do it. And honestly, as much as I like Endeavor probably never got, well, maybe, in terms of attack power, maybe. But, like, I think this Nomu's still legally stronger than Hood, and I think Hood's the only other completed high-end we've seen. We saw a bunch of near high-ends, but I don't think we ever saw another high-end Nomu like the USJ one and like Hood. But regardless, look at the detail, bro. Look at the musculature on the tongue alone. Bro has more striation and musculature on his tongue than I do in my entire body. What in the world? The individual teeth being lined out, the eyes lost in different directions, the brain heavily detailed from different aspects of shading and marking. Heck, even the detail in the mouth itself, showing how crude it is and how it's almost inorganic, almost metallic in its structure and the many different chips inside of it. It's so good. Oh man, it's so different. That's the thing. Once again, I feast whenever Hori decides to put something on the plate, and this is feast worthy. This man is like, there's at least 5 panels from every MHA chapter post like 100 that I put on my wall, if I had the space. It's just that good. He's just that different, y'all. I'm telling you. And what I do like here is as Midori gets closer and closer to reaching the connections between him and Shigaraki, truly beginning to understand the greatest villain in all of history, I do like how those connections are drawing them closer and closer to moments where they sync up, where they link up. Why do we go from seemingly 2 entirely disjointed memories from the tournament arc and from post-Hosu to the USJ? Why? Because this is the first time they met. This is the first time they mixed. This is the first time they encountered each other and honestly got in each other's way. As we see, not just this interaction in USJ, but very specifically the one where Midoriya ended up striking back against Shigaraki, even at the risk of his own flesh and blood and his own body, just like Midoriya Izuku's doing now. But where then he leaped with a face of, oh, I gotta do this to save my friends and All Might. And Shigaraki's looking on with shock, indifference, and a bit of disgust. The two barely knew each other then. They might as well have been glints in each other's eyes, not truly acknowledging the other for the impact that they would have on each other later in life. But what ends up happening as we see Shigaraki reflect on the boy who once could not control this power, and Midori reflecting on the man who did not know what power he could wield? In the end, those two confused, timid young men meet with a declarative roar. Shigaraki! And I'm sorry, I can't do like extensive Midoriya voice. Midoriya! They hit the Naruto and Sasuke. Like, notably, I hate just calling it the Naruto and Sasuke, but it is. Naruto! Sasuke! Like, it is very much like that. And I'll admit, one issue that I still do kind of have with MHA. Unlike the Naruto and Sasuke dynamic, which gets a whole bunch of time to properly flesh it out, where they play off each other properly, and they do have their running parallel narratives, like upwards, especially in Shippuden, the parallel narrative is expressively laid out. Itachi is Sasuke's pain, just as pain is Naruto's Itachi. Like, the playoff between the two, and it continues in terms of their power-ups, in terms of their power progression, in terms of their team development. Like, Naruto and Sasuke, it's a reason why I say it's most likely the overall best written dynamic across two characters in a piece of fiction that I've read. Like, just because of how balanced it is up to the point of conclusion. Once again, I haven't read that much fiction, though. So, like, feel free to drop more impressive dynamics for me. But one of the biggest things that I feel sad about for Midoriya and Shigaraki in particular is it feels like they don't really get to interact that much. Like, their narratives run very, very parallel, and it's why I appreciate it so much, and it's why I understand why a lot of people have this as their favorite new-gen antagonist and protagonist dynamic. Their parallels, beautiful, fantastic, from the development of both characters to their development and power growth to the villains that they fight playing off of each other, and My Villain Academia leading to the destruction of Redestro, and the Overhaul arc leading to the destruction of Overhaul for Midoriya, and how they play off each other, and how their awakenings tend to coincide. All that's fantastic, but it feels like these characters barely know each other. And it's why I always, like, it's why I find Midoriya, though admittedly I've grown soft on it now, because, once again, time dulls all sharp edges. I've grown soft on Midoriya being so adamant about saving Shigaraki, though, in retrospect, like, him doing all this, going all out, for a guy he's talked to, like, twice? Like, what? They had, like, the 5-second interaction in USJ. They had their first interaction in the war. And then every other time he interacted with Shigaraki, it was all for one. This is, like, his third time meeting, bro. And, like, having an extensive anything with him. Forget battle, conversation. Like... Oh, no. It's the fourth time. Because they do have their little interaction right before the Midnight Raid arc. And I guess you could technically count, what's it called? Not Mustafa. What is that? The All Might's Fall arc. Kamino War. Like, they do have their slight little interactions there as well. But, with that being the case, all that aside, all my whining aside, I still think it works for how well these two have paralleled each other, even with the break from All for One. And I think that it works for the fact that it isn't just Midoriya fighting alone. Even if these are all simply ghosts, vestiges, ideas, and falsehoods implanted into One for All. The memories, once again going back to the data analogy, the software left in One for All. I still think it works because these characters, while I will never know all their names, I kind of already forgot the Bakugo lookalike's name. I want to say it's N. But no, this is N. This is N. This is Yoichi. This is All Might. This is Danjiburo. I'm not even sure if I say his name right. I'm not sure if it's Danjiburo or Danjiburo. I always say Danjiburo, but I'm not even sure where I heard that. Nana. Bruce? I think his name is Bruce. For some reason, the name Bruce is coming to me. I think it's Bruce. And then I forget the second user's name. But with that being the case, with their sacrifice being involved, even if they don't get the most elaboration or deepness as characters, one, we have All Might here, who will, admittedly, not perish, because the real All Might's still alive, but we do have All Might here, who kind of gets to break that mold, in terms of a character not really knowing, and perishing alongside everybody else. I still think it works because these characters have gotten just enough of that whiff of screen time in order to make their verbatim sacrifices, right? Like, they all admit, yeah, bro, I'll be real with you, bucko. Once I get transferred, I ain't gonna be me no more, dog. You gonna be able to use me for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. As simple as that. But they all go out with such determination, such fury, such magnitude. Look at the scream on N's face as he dives into the pit of malice and hatred and anger deep in his soul. And not his soul, but Shigaraki's soul. Seeing him dive so headfirst with such willingness when he himself was the cowardly one who was like, hey, maybe we should come back when we are, maybe, I don't know, fully healed? Maybe? Instead of, fighting the embodiment of all evil on a, regular day, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we shouldn't be engaging with them right now. To see him be the one that goes, ah! As he pretty much dive bombs into Shigaraki's malice is beautiful. And I love how the impact is portrayed. It is so forceful, tearing through the outer layer and digging deep into the shell. And I love how this, once again, the count reflects who's left. The 5 who remain, I believe, because Danjiburo, Bruce, Nana, I already forget. No, Yoichi, and someone else. But essentially those 5 that are left in comparison to the 6 that were sent out. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, All Might. There we go. What to say? All of whom were sent out It only leaves the 5 left. And ultimately, the outer shell, as you can see here, does end up bouncing off 5 of the remaining vestiges. Which means that All Might can be transferred. I wonder, is he just gonna light it up? Light it up, light it up. Oh my god! I have no idea what All Might's gonna do without a quirk factor, but I'm interested to see it as Midoriya lands the definitive punch. And we see he realizes, huh? My transfer was rejected? Nani Daisuke? How could you do this to me, Shigaraki-kun? I trusted you, and you just left me to... I'm sorry. Troy Baker as Red Hood / Arkham Knight / Jason Todd in Arkham Knight. Beautiful. Man, he's just... I hope I'm crediting the right... I think it's Troy Baker. I think it's Troy. But, man, he's just so good with it. Oh, wait. No, I'm thinking of Delson Rowe, because he also... Don't pretend to understand. Who? That's it. I'm gonna double check because it's gonna bother me if I don't. I'm pretty sure it's Troy Baker. Okay, I know he does Joker verbatim. Who plays Jason Todd in Arkham Knight? Look at your boy. It is Troy Baker. And that's why, for some reason, whenever, I hear rejected, some certain lines trigger TB Arkham Knight to me. I don't know what it is. Anything that's to do with rejection or being left behind, that always triggers them. I don't know what happens. And I can't imitate Troy's performance because it's just too good. But with that being the case, it's interesting why the methodology changed up. Because Midoriya says, huh? The transfer was rejected? He didn't accept my friend request? Nani? And we see that Shigaraki's like, oh, God. Does it have to always be in the chest? Why? I can feel my ribs. I should be able to feel my ribs. What the heck? Midoriya supposed to be saving me. While he's in genuine agony, huffing and puffing and trying to regenerate, he did take damage, which is good. And once again, I do think it does kind of play into the fact that Shigaraki, as a endgame antagonist, I don't know, he kind of feels, I'm not going to say overhyped, but I guess he kind of is. For how much hype he's gotten, this threat to capable of destroying the very world. This man with infinite quirks at his disposal. All his unadulterated power. To see him get just... boop, boop, and he's going to get... boop, again, it's crazy to me. Though, I assume, if I had to chalk this up, is 1, inexperience, 2, confusion, 3, internal quirk damage, and probably internal brain damage from all the damage he's taking, and 4, maybe this is Tenko Shimoda. Once again, fighting back. Now that he's noticed there's a crack, a little sieve of light in the ceiling, shining down upon him, being extended by a certain Izuku Midoriya. Maybe he's fighting back. Maybe that explains Shigaraki's stationary state. Well, yeah, his stationary state for the most of this chapter. And also, I think he speaks maybe once? No. Yeah, he doesn't even speak at all this chapter. We don't get any... We get this. This technically counts as Shigaraki dialogue. But notably, Shigaraki, he's quiet. Not a peep of his internal monologue. No, nothing. All he does is go, ugh, after getting punched in the chest and having a hole made in him. And to be fair, if I got punched in the chest and had a hole made in me, I would not be able to go, ugh. So I give him credit for trying. But at the same time, it's interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. Huh. So, with that being the case, I'll assume it's Tenko. Because not just the fact that Shigaraki is stationary, but as we see, Danjaburo pulls something up. Huh. He rejected it. Having a strong enough will to even steal us, I guess that's possible. But, Anne was the only one who managed to break through. That explains the damage. So this is where it gets a little bit weird. I thought the goal was to transfer them one by one. Am I wrong? I get the group transfer would be quicker. And, I do group transfers all the time. In terms of, anything too massive to be sent over something else. But, with that being the case, it just feels a little bit weird. You didn't really get rejected if N still got in. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only thing that does feel a little bit off to me. But I'll still let it slide for the fact that they were trying to transfer them all at once to expedite the process. Because once again, every single second, Shigaraki is still Shigaraki. He's a threat to the world. This is where it does get a tiny bit weird, though. This is it. So, the overall group transfer was rejected. But N managed to make it through. And N managed to do damage, not just on the physical level like Midoriya did through the punch to the chest, but also on the metaphysical level in the QUIRK world. Question is, though, how does that count as rejection? And does that mean, if the group rejection can be blocked like this, will the injections become less effective the less and less people Midoriya has to attempt to transfer over? What I mean is, like, now that he's just left with Danjiburo Yoichi, the second user, and, the third user, and Nana, will the next group transfer be less effective, or will he still be able to transfer over one of them? And if who's going next? Presumably because right now, remember, Midoriya can't really give up Black Whip, which is why I'm so shocked that Danjiburo is here diving for it at all, because, like, Black Whip is the only way that Midoriya is moving right now. He's puppeteering his body about. So, I'm interested to see what's kicking, what's kicking and what's cooking here, in terms of the transfer. Because it really wasn't rejected, it was just, I guess it was rejected. It was rejected, because he tried to transfer them all at once. But that feels like a change of the plan, which was a one-by-one thing, but I guess they were trying to go for all at once. So it works out. Plus, the faster they go with injecting Shigaraki with everything, hopefully the quicker they can wind everything down. So, we see that we are getting deeper and deeper, reaching closer and closer to the core memories of who Shigaraki is. And, well, kind of, sort of. We're kind of digging, once again, we're uncovering Tenko, essentially, by going deeper and deeper and deeper into the memory sphere. And as Shigaraki grunts and is knocked away, Midoriya sees these titans. The Titan of Tenko Shimura, after presumably the loss of his entire family, as he connects to the man, the monster, the beast, and the demon that is all for one. And we see that Midoriya realizes, I'm getting closer. I just have to keep trying as much as it takes. And we get this beautiful panel here. Once again, I love how the fingers come together to form a hand in of themselves, kind of like this sort of claw shape for the hand. You can see the thumb, the pinky, and then kind of the three middle fingers. And by the three middle fingers, I mean like pointer finger, center finger, and ring finger. And then you kind of have the extra ones branching out from there. I like that. I like that design detail, and I like how Shigaraki is literally being held within this biomass, and it's all coming forth to consume everything. And another detail I do really end up liking here is this design. Notably, I was going to say this was a bit over-designed towards the start of the review, because it does feel a little bit excessive with all the fingers. It feels like we're kind of losing Shigaraki, like he becomes such a minor part of it. But that does play into what this is meant to be, right? Like, this is not just Shigaraki's own defenses. This is All For One's last defenses kicking in, essentially. The adaptation and evolution of this in the representation of the hands are what the hands were meant to be. A binder, a limiter on Shigaraki. So them coming out to protect him, leading to this seemingly overgrown, over-designed cocoon, makes sense within the context of what they're meant to be and what they represent. So, I actually like it here. And once again, I am liking Midoriya's design a whole lot. Even though, man, it's gotta feel weird. But with that being the case, we see he's being recorded once again through a image orb. And we see the massive biomass begin to grow, and grow. And it's shown that while the communications have started to go down, apparently they've been hijacked by someone far, far away. I wonder who this is, because we know the Gorillas guy, the Gorillas reference, he got captured. So I wonder who is the person interfering with everything. I'm not sure who this is, but as it said, no matter the crisis, UA still has its haters. I guess. But essentially, they're being stopped from broadcasting. But May's able to use the previous device that she used to deliver the gloves to Midoriya as a monitoring device. And as she says, she very specifically does it because, hey, that's still her client out there, fighting to save the world. And thusly, she's going to do her best to keep supporting her client, which is a nice little detail. And we see a nice little team up that I don't think we're going to get much of, but I still think is nice. Gentle and Cementos, the former villain and the concrete hero, working together. And while Cementos is taking care of the gigantic structure of UA, it's Gentle's job to go in and save the people, to be a hero, which I think is so sweet. And I love how La Brava's like, he's the boy who made the man I love get arrested, turning him into a better person. So she doesn't hold any ill will towards Midoriya, because ultimately it was Midoriya who ended up freeing Gentle from his path of destruction, or attempted destruction for notoriety, which allows Gentle to now be the hero he is today, the hero that Gentle always wanted to be, which is very sweet. Once again, for a character duo that I never expected to come back, or especially be this relevant, I'm so happy that they are. I still think, due to Shigaraki's time skip, essentially, that was forced by the end of the First War, and overall his lack of agency as a character by the proper reintroduction of Tenko Shimura, and that being a person, and Shigaraki being more so assumed to be a mask rather than an individual character, I think Gentle is now my favorite overall villain. I think he's gotten it. He has the most, well, I guess, like, antagonist character. I guess Shigaraki technically still is the more complete villain because he's still evil. Meanwhile, Gentle has come full circle. It's never truly evil. But I'd say Gentle my overall favorite antagonist character for Midoriya, now with Shigaraki kind of falling apart. But with that being the case, we see that now the broadcast is back in with this dude, who I forget what his name is, and I really don't care. But we see that they're shocked at the battlefield that's going on, as, of course, this would be a disturbing image for anybody. But also, Eri is charging out. She's with, I forget his name. I'm sorry, there's so many My Hero Academia characters, I'm going to forget their names. But this guy who has the cloning ability, Ectoplasm, she runs away from Ectoplasm as he says, "Hey, wait, Eri-chan!" And the chapter ends with saying she's running towards. Now, I don't think she's going to make it to the battlefield. I mainly did it as a joke in the intro. I wonder how many people are going to get mad at that. But, like, I did it as a joke in the intro. I don't think Eri's going to magically, mystically make it all the way to the battlefield. She's, like, so far away, and any character who could take her there is incapacitated. Like, who would take her? Who can fly still? Unless she hops on, like, a plane or something. I don't think anyone there who is, like, alive or conscious enough. Like, maybe she's running towards UA to help take care of some people, like be a hero and saving them, but I don't think she's going to run and ruin the plot or somehow break the function of the story by, like, running to Midoriya and Shigaraki and being the reason that Shigaraki is destroyed and Tomura is going to reawake. I don't think that's going to happen. I think any fears of Eri breaking the plot have kind of been assuaged by her being so limited. And plus her horn's way too tiny to do anything too crazy or next level, unless her quirk, like, awakens and mutates and she does something next level with her healing ability. So honestly, I think it's fine. Interesting point to cut to, Eri, but I still think that's fine. We do need to cut away from this. We still have other plot lines to wrap up. And if we're going to use Eri as a transition point, very good. However, overall, a W chapter. A very W chapter. Once again, mainly I'm glazing the art because not much, I mean, the loss of N and the reestablishment of the videography going on is nice. Like, that's good. I'm glad that this is being recorded for everybody. But we're kind of just continuing where we left off. Outside of a Naruto and Sasuke reference and Midoriya and Shigaraki's call for each other and callbacks to iconic moments, it's not like these moments are really being used as anything other than, like, cool background set pieces rather than just Japan. Like, notably, a plot point I mentioned earlier that someone else was hoping would be used here is that these memories would be used as points of self-reflection for Shigaraki and Midoriya, where they'd be able to, like, critique each other on their past and their mistakes and their previous interactions. But no, they aren't really being acknowledged too much other than, like, oh, hey, that's Tenko. Maybe I can use this as a signifier for the fact that I'm getting closer. Shigaraki doesn't comment on any Midoriya's memories. Midoriya doesn't really comment on Shigaraki's memory outside of this one, so I do think the narrative potential of this is kind of getting squandered, but at the same time, we kind of just need to wrap this up. I'm not gonna lie. So, I understand why not much can happen, because there are other things that need to be wrapped up, and I'm still glad with how peak this chapter is artistically. So overall, a very W chapter. However, that's what I think. This is what you guys think in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave connections in the like Naruto Storm connections. Leave connections in the comment section down below. And thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon below where you can support me for as low as $1 month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter, ad-free variations of all my videos, and if you're going $25 patron or $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Now, thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That of the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, O'Connor Plays, Greyhound, Akids Void, Astro, and Red Wolf 4765. I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Steron, Sean, RNG Master, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Jermaine, Igneal, EHAC1, and Demix LND. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $7 members, Autumn Mornings Lazo, Sick Addiction, and Jan Toma. And I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $10 member, Jay Warrior. And I'd like to give another thank you to our two $10 patrons, Joaquin and Item Okami. And I'd like to give a hefty thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. And I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Winter. Another hefty thank you to our $25 patron, China Doll 09. And a final gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.